Good evening, everybody. Hi, I'm way over here. I know, I'm sitting on the side. You're looking to the front like who's speaking to you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Steve Stewart. I'm the city manager here in the city of Ridgefield. Thank you all very, very much for attending this city council candidate forum. We're excited to have you all here. We're excited for the people that will be watching this as we live stream, as well as those who will be watching later on, because it will be and is going to be recorded. So those of you know, this is a process for you as residents of Ridgefield to get to know some people who would like to serve you and the rest of the residents of Ridgefield as your next city council person. It is obviously an important piece of what an elected official does. Is actually has conversations with the people that they serve. So this is really an opportunity for them to have a conversation with you as they would as your friend, as your neighbor, as someone serving in the community to help make it better. And I would be remiss if I didn't actually thank the candidates themselves. There were 6 people who stood up as candidates for this space on the city council. These candidates are stepping up and stepping out to serve. It is a significant step for anybody to actually stand in front of their neighbors and their friends and try to do what's best for them, try to make their community better. It's not an easy job. And those days, there will be days that are not easy, but there are amazing days where you actually get to make things better. You see the impact you have on your community. So these are folks that have been willing to stand up and serve. And I think before I get any further, could we please thank these finalists for actually participating? And the last thing I will do before I introduce our applicants for City Council is go through a little bit of the process for this evening. This evening's process was actually created a lot by you for you. So we have reached out to residents of Ridgefield to ask them to ask questions that they want to have answered by applicants for City Council. We've taken those questions, we've gathered them together, we've put them onto a sheet of paper that I have before me, and I will be asking these questions to the applicants so that they can actually provide answers to you to the questions that you wanted to know the answers for. For those of you who are here in the audience this evening and don't hear your question being asked. We have paper in the area just behind this door. We have paper there and a couple of pens. Please do feel free, write down a question you want to have asked. And then at some point, like when we're about halfway through this, I will then ask Diana, who is working with us this evening, to gather those and so that we can ask those questions as well, so long as we have time. Regarding time, we have this space for an hour and a half until 7:30. Now that can go fast. It can also be a lot of time. We don't know yet. We're gonna actually start the process and we'll figure out where we're at. We have a maximum time of 7:30. If we're done at 7 and we have no more questions and it's just an opportunity for the candidates to kind of mill around and talk to people, that's great too. It's a great opportunity to just get to know people. So process-wise, that is where we are going to start and when we will be ending. And the first thing we will do before we get into the questions is we will give each of the applicants an opportunity to just introduce themselves. So they did choose numbers just a few minutes ago as to who would be going first, second, and third, and I think I have it right. We have 3 applicants this evening. The first applicant and who will be going first, and I'll introduce all of you before we do this, is Magdalena Butler. So Maggie will be going first. Thank you for being here this evening. Second, we have Roderick Langer, who will be going second in the introductions as well. Thank you for being here, sir. And third, we have Megan Hamilton. Thank you very much for being here this evening. All 3 of you, again, thank you for stepping up into this space. So with that, and no further ado, we'll have 2 minutes for opening statements and just introductions. And Ms. Butler, you are going first.
Buenas tardes, good evening. My name is Magdalena Butler, but most people know me by Maggie. I've been Maggie since the 2nd grade. My family and I moved to Ridgefield 7.5 years ago. My partner and I have 3 children at the high school, at Sunset, and at Union Ridge. My husband is an Army veteran and served 2 deployments in Iraq. He is currently working in the financial world now. I am a mental health therapist at a middle school in a neighboring school district. And prior to that, I was working here at the Richfield School District as a data system specialist. I currently serve or volunteer for the city's Planning Commission as a board member for the Richfield Multicultural Initiative and as a neighborhood coordinator for the Richfield Greenback Project. Prior to that, I've also volunteered for Meals on Wheels Friendly Chats, which is an amazing program that is like aimed at removing social isolation for our homebound seniors. I've also worked or volunteered as a soccer coach for my kids for like the last 10 years. I am a member of the Ridgefield Lions Club, and I am also a new member of the Ridgefield Art Association, and not because I'm an artist, but because I'm an art supporter, and my 12-year-old wanted a camera, wanted to learn photography, and I thought, what a better way to support him than to, reach out and learn from the people in the community. I am really excited to be here and have this opportunity to serve, and I thank you all for being here. Your input and you being here is really important and vital to the process, so thank you for being here and spending your evening with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Butler. So second, introduce himself would be Roderick Langer. Sir?
Good evening. So I'm really also thrilled to be here, and my name is Roderick Langer. I've been in Ridgefield, well, gosh, I don't even know. I went to high school in Ridgefield. I went to middle school in Ridgefield. And then after that, I went off with the military, went all over the world, and then came back here, and I've raised 5 kids in middle school, high school, et cetera, here in Ridgefield. And I just really feel very close to this community. It was part of food drives here in the past. I was a coach for years, a soccer coach, HOA president, like trying to be involved in my community where it made sense, while also I was in the reserves and doing things, with my family. And also it's been just a great community to raise a family in. I am a IT professional in my personal job. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. I do a lot of coaching and continuous improvement type work, so taking processes that are broken or could be made better and somehow making them better, and hope to use some of that in really everything I do. I talk about it a lot. I believe that leadership is really about servanthood, but in this role, it's about listening and being out in the community, being part of things, talking to folks, because the decisions that get made by city council really need to be informed decisions by what people want in the community, what the needs are out in the community. So I plan to be doing a lot of that. And then 3 personal sort of priorities, or things that I hope I get to be a part of to do if I'm in this role, are, one, I would love to see Ridgefield be more people-centric and less car-centric, more inclusive spaces and shared spaces. I know Mayor Matt Coles has a passion for affordable and diverse housing, and I support that as well. But more walkability is really what I would love to see happen within Ridgefield. 2, just expanding and continuing the good work that I think Ridgefield has already done with regards to making sure to communicate to folks in any way they can. Matt did a great video of walking in the rain the other day, but just keeping people informed, because the more that we're informed as members of the community about what the city is doing, and we feel part of that process, right? And then lastly, and not to get political, but I'm married to an immigrant, and who is on board with the Ridgefield Multicultural Initiative, like Maggie is. And I want to encourage and see more, and I think the city has done a really good job of including people, making sure that there's that diversity, that inclusion of all kinds of faces, faiths and whatnot at the city of Ridgefield. In an environment right now where it seems to be going the other way, Ridgefield seems to be holding on to that, and I would love to see that continue. So again, happy to be here, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Langer. And third is Megan Hamilton. Good evening.
Good evening. Wow, okay, this is very exciting. My name is Megan Hamilton. I am an entrepreneur, business owner. I am someone who has been deeply involved in the downtown Vancouver community, but has grown up in Ridgefield. So I will state right from the bat, I'm probably the underdog when it comes to community activism within Ridgefield. No matter what happens here with this position, that I plan on changing that because this is my community. So we moved up here when we were 10, and I went to Southridge, and then this was the library that I participated in honor roll in, or honor society more specifically. And then went to Ridgefield High School, graduated class of '01, go Spuds. And now I live here with my amazing fiance and my daughter Hadley, and my ex-husband was nice enough to come as well, who's sitting next to her. And it's really all about family and community to me. I own a place called Glam Beauty Bar. So that space is all about honoring who you are and acknowledging exactly who you want to be, and I want to push that forward in every part of our community. So I'm lucky enough that I have a reference point for what Ridgefield used to be, which I think is the core value that moves us forward in who we want to be also, because we have so much growth, and that's not stopping, but to manage that and still maintain the character of the city that we all love and want to be a part of is why I got involved. My fiance sent me the article for this position being opened, and it's kind of out of left field, to be honest with you. It really is. I'm very good at leadership. I'm very confident. I'm very good at organization and getting things done. I own 3 businesses, Glam, a merchandise line, and a hairbrush line, makeup brush line. And I go on TV once a month for the last 9 years. Like, I feel pretty confident. Not specifically right now. I feel a little nervous. But I just really looked at that. I looked at the article he sent me, and I thought, who do I want to be in that position? And then I thought, why not you? I care, I'm a part of the community. My kid goes here, she's a 7th grader at View Ridge with the world's greatest principal, Mr. Mansfield, in the back. I just love this community, and I want to be a part of it. I want to show up for people, and I think that in my position as a leader at work, I've hired a lot of people. And whenever I hire the person whose resume looks the best, it doesn't necessarily turn out. But when I hire for the person, when I hire for the ambition and the work ethic and the passion and the things that you can't teach people, I think that's what I'm hoping that you see in me today. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, all 3 of you. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves to us. As we move forward into the questions, we will still use the same order on it, but we'll reverse it each time so that it's fair that way, that, you know, the first person isn't always the first person to answer the question. Like, gosh, I wish I would have heard that other person answer before. I would get a little more time to think about it. So we'll reverse the order each time. So, and I will try desperately to remember what that order is. And so any help you can give me would be much appreciated. But that means, Megan, you're going to be going first on this first question. The first question from our residents is, based on what you know about Ridgefield City government, what do you see as the #1 issue you want to address during this term of being a council member, and why?
Sure. I think most people would mention growth, right? The city's growing like crazy. But I think if we look past that, I think the community engagement is going to be the key in moving us forward and keeping those core kind of character city values that we've always, the reason that people move to Ridgefield, right? They love the historic downtown. They love who we stand for as a community, but as more people come in and they're further away from that, I think that the community engagement and getting people involved will be key in that. Because I'm a prime example, right? I've lived here for a long time, and I haven't done as much as I could. So I think it would be really interesting, and I'd want to make it a point to make that information more accessible and more digestible to the everyday person. I think you could go on the government website, and there's a lot of information. There's no lack of providing information, but I think for someone like me, like my fiance could read through that, and that's the way his brain works. Mine, I'm like, I'm like, it's a social media digest, right? So figuring out something where it's like how to Ridgefield when you move here, or some kind of program that we could really put in, like maybe a WSUV student that wanted some social media hours, and we could really start to invest in showing the cool things like the parks and the services and the events and all the things. Like they were talking to me about a movie night that I didn't know about before this, and that's on me. But I think it would be really neat to have a funnel on really active community engagement so that we can manage growth and keep people invested in the community the way that we want the community to look. And I just think connecting with people in general. I love that piece of our community, and I feel like as we grow, we want to make sure that we don't lose that. And we want to make sure everyone feels seen, everyone feels heard, and everyone knows if they want to have a fun night, they can go here. They can, it's that really active involvement. And I think it's not for a lack of people not wanting to get involved in certain things. It's maybe just a lack of knowing how to access the information. So making a point to be a community point and outreach for everyone would be a goal for me.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, then second on this question will be Roderick Langer. So Roderick?
Sure. Thank you. Am I on? Okay. So I agree with regards to growth and all of that, because Ridgefield has been one of the, if not the fastest growing communities in Washington State. But specifically how we grow, one of the most attended things that I've seen and when people get together is like when there's certain things that happen in the community development wise, where like, I don't know if some of you remember where there was some talk about putting in a gas station and a Minimart up by the high school, and this room was packed, right? And people did not want that up there. And to their credit, the developer listened and, okay, I get it. This is not where somebody wants me, fine. I don't want to see that, and I don't want just like Minimart after Minimart. I don't want to see the same big box stores over and over and over again. And I realize that the city only has so much control of that. And I'm only just now really learning how much or little they really do. But what I would love to see is that we craft a community the way a community works well, where there's lots of walkability, as I mentioned before, where stuff is easy to get to. There is a variety of things in a small amount of a small area where I can walk downtown, or I can walk to an area and I can get to the grocery store, I can get to the bookstore, I can stop at my dentist, like things are close, right? So how we develop, not just that we grow quickly, that we provide lots of different stuff, but we really craft how we develop and how the city looks when we're done. And that planning 5 years and 10 years out, I really want to be a part of that, and that's exciting to me. So,
thank you very much. Maggie?
Well, I want to be mindful that this appointment is until December 2025, and so I think me coming in and saying like these are my priorities is with that would mean I'd have good intentions, but like the reality is it only runs until December 2025. So knowing that, I think my focus would be what the current council is currently working on, right? So like what are their priorities, and like the legislative agenda of why they're in Olympia this week, right, is to request funding and support from the legislators to work on the projects that are currently impacting the residents of Ridgefield, working on the I-5 South freeway, so although I completely agree, like collaboration, getting community engagement, I know that is important. I know that's something that the city is continuously doing. I know that's something that the residents are doing themselves. But looking at the duration of this appointment, I think it is safe to say that I would like to jump on board with council and focus on what their direction is and what their goals are for the year.
All right. Thank all three of you very much. We will now flip the script, go from 1 to 3, and I actually did realize like if we just went back and forth like that, then Roderick would always be second on that. So I have made really scribble scratch notes to mix it up even more than that, and I'll let you know who's first on each one. So on this one, the order will be 1, 2, 3. So we will go Maggie, then Roderick, then Megan on this one, and the question is, Ridgefield is growing in its multicultural diversity. How would you ensure the needs of all Ridgefield residents are represented on the city council? Maggie, you're first.
Well, I looked at data. Ridgefield School District is about 15% Hispanic Latino as of this current school year. The U.S. Census says that city of Ridgefield is about 10%. And so I know that the city has goals and an equity statement, and they are trying to be inclusive in their practices and elect leadership that represents the community. So that would be the first step, right? Making sure that voices and people are heard and that they are put in places of leadership where decisions are being made with the intention of serving the community and their best interest. So what would I do? I would collaborate with our local community, find out what their needs are, learn about the different community members that are here. Just because one looks one way doesn't mean that everyone falls into that category. And so really trying to understand the residents that we have here and what they want to see, like not just in their local community, not just in their school community, but what are the challenges that they face? What are the successes that they want to celebrate or want to be noticed and highlighted in this community? Yeah, so I think just making sure that I am present and available is one way that I can help facilitate that change and inclusiveness in our community.
Thank you very much. Roderick.
Sure. So Maggie is on the Ridgefield Multicultural Initiative, and that Megan leads, and so is my wife. And I think that from the city's perspective, if we're encouraging those kinds of things to happen, and because it's not necessarily, a lot of times it's going to be people out in the community like Megan and like these two who are going to get those things going, and the city's then job is to make sure that we're supporting that. And I think the city in the past has stumbled on occasion with regards to supporting certain things that they then turned around and fixed. I won't go into details, but what I really like to see is that when people bring things to the city and say, we really want to do this, we want to support our community in this way, that's the job of the city council, is then to say, yeah, we support that. We'll put our names behind that as the city. We'll, help with resources or whatever it is to make that happen, because we want people in the community to be represented and to feel a part of the community. And I don't know that it's necessarily the job of the city to start those things, but it is certainly our job to support that. So.
All right, thank you very much. And third, Megan.
Well, my first thought was Maggie. When you said that, I was like, speaking to experts and speaking to people that are directly involved in the communities that we're serving. I'm a big believer in, if you don't know someone, you find someone who knows more than you, and you listen, and you actively participate in the conversation, and then that is where your action path moves forward. So I think talking to people in the community, hosting forums, talking to groups that really have their finger on the pulse is the only way that you can really dive in specifically with groups of people that maybe are underserved and are not typically the people that we are putting first. And so I think, I mean, open listening and then action. That's the only thing that we can do as far as serving the underserved.
Thank you, all three of you. We'll move on to the next question, and the order for this one will be Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie on this one. So the question is, what steps do you take or would you take to ensure transparency and accountability in the decision-making process, and what would that look like for you on city council?
Good question. I don't know how to answer that exactly, except that, I mean, most of the decisions that you get made are as a board together. Everything is recorded and televised and all of those kinds of things. But I think also, beyond the fact that that's all recorded, is then doing a lot like what I saw Matt Cole do, which is then just turning around and talking to the city. Here's some things we're thinking about. Here's what's going on right now. Here's some decisions that were recently made, and here's why they were made. And that piece I was saying at the beginning, where I think it's really important to communicate out to folks what is happening so that they feel a part of the decision-making process and know what's going on, that the more we communicate from this platform or from any platform of leadership what is actually happening, then you're going to garner more trust with folks. Also, being out and just listening to people, same idea. I mean, I feel more trusting of folks when I'm getting some personal attention, some personal time with them, and they're looking me in the eye and they're letting me know, that they're actually listening to my issues, the things that I'm concerned about, because then I know that they're going to take that and try to go and make a decision based on that little extra bit of information from me. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Megan?
So So I echo the talking to people. I think everything in anywhere is about communication, right? So if I think teaching people how to find transparency, like wouldn't even necessarily know. I think sometimes it feels like government and people can be very separated. And so bridging a gap so that people understand where they can look to, what resources they even know to find transparency. You can look at notes and not necessarily know how to digest that. So just talking to people and being involved in the community, I think you just have to put yourself out there. I think not knowing what you don't know, like as soon as you asked the question about transparency, I was like, well, how would I not know that they weren't transparent? Like, that was my first thought, like, isn't everything written down? Like, why wouldn't we know that? And then I'm like, how would I find that? I don't know. So I think just bridging a gap in general is needed between government and the public in general. There's people that are the people that are involved, and then there's people that are totally uninvolved. And so I think figuring out how to get the uninvolved people to feel comfortable to get involved is where more transparency is going to lie.
Thank you very much. Maggie.
Well, I think the city council has done a great job of ensuring that they are as transparent as possible. I appreciate the updates that are on, social media, updates that, emails that get sent out to let you know when meetings are being held, where you can find the agenda packet. But I also think that city council members have code of ethics that they are to follow. And so by collaborating with each other, holding each other accountable, like, hey, are we following the code of ethics that we are, swearing to abide by, to represent and always have the best interest of the residents is really important. What steps I would take to ensure that it's accountable, that people or things are being held accountable? It's a lot of communication, right? How do you know that this department is fulfilling the task that they said they were going to do or working on the project if there's no communication? So being open to receiving communication, being open to asking questions, even if they're the hard questions about deadlines or where the project is, status, and then relaying that information to the citizens when it's acceptable, right? Like what they need to know for that time. So that's what I would do, is try to abide by the code of ethics, make sure that I am holding myself accountable to what I said I was going to do, and if needed, make sure that other council members are doing the same thing.
Great. Thank you, all three of you. We'll now move on to the next question. And the order to answer the next question will be Megan, then Maggie, then Roderick. So Megan, Maggie, Roderick. The question is, given the ever-burgeoning growth of housing and commercial entities, what in your background and education provides you with the ability to oversee the impacts this is having on Ridgefield, and what are those impacts that you see happening?
Well, I think there's a lot of positives and negatives, right? So I think people can sometimes feel frustrated by the growth factor in the residential areas, but then we have the Costco's and the areas that people are so excited about. So it's kind of balancing the two of those things and helping the public understand the plan forward, I would imagine. So most people, I don't know how many developments. I know all that is accessible online, but I think just really educating the regular man about where things are going in, showing them access to the different maps and development things. I don't necessarily have a lot of background. I have a fiance in construction that I could probably ask a question or two if I needed to. I'm really a big believer in learning. So I'm here to say I don't necessarily know yet, but I'm absolutely the person that will find out and figure it out moving forward. So.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
I served as a project manager for a small nonprofit, and so while that's a small nonprofit and not the city of Ridgefield and not a growing city of Ridgefield, but just ensuring that oversight, right? You always have oversight on projects. Again, making sure there's deadlines that are being met and communication that is being had. So what provides me the the impacts that are happening is, we know the infrastructure. We know that we need a variety of ways for residents to get in and out of town and not just Pioneer Street. And so what I recognize is that is what the council is already doing. They are trying to make those changes to make it easier for residents that are currently here, and recognize that we are growing, we're going to continue to grow, and so how are we including residents in these decisions, informing them of what's going on, keeping them updated, and also understanding that there are going to be challenges, but having public forums like this, including people and inviting them to planning commission meetings so that they are aware of what's going on before it hits council is also important. Yeah, so yes, there's a lot of impacts. I know like water is also another issue that I know that the city is also working on. I think overall, just making sure residents understand beginning to end where things are going and where the council is with these larger projects.
Thank you very much. Roderick?
Like Maggie and Megan, I'm not a city planner, but I do have an interest in having, my wife who works for public health and was part of an initiative about walkability in cities and all of that, which I just found fascinating. But ultimately, that's not my job. That's not what I do for a living every day. So I would have to lean heavily on those who do know more than I do about such things. And while I have some thoughts about what I would love to see happen in Ridgefield, if I'm just being honest, I don't have the background as a city planner to say, how it should happen. And so I would have to lean on those who are experts in that, and then, like everyone else who is not a city planner by trade, on the council, take advice and listen to good advice and look at what's good for the community. So,
Thank you, all three of you. All right, we're going to break up. Got some heavy questions. We're going to throw a lighter one in there for you. It's like there's a lot of meat on the bone on that. So we're going to go a little bit lighter on this. So we have the order for this next question is Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie. So the question is, can you please name for all of us one of your favorite places or spaces in Ridgefield and why?
So I was a kid here growing up, and I spent a lot of time both. I lived out on 179th for a long time, and then I lived downtown for a long time, and probably the river more than any other thing. In fact, this little side of thing, when I met my wife, my profile name was Wading in Waters, because I used to spend all kinds of time in the river and on the water. So the whole idea of the development of the waterfront down there and all of that is pretty cool to me. I'm really excited to see as that gets developed out, what that ends up looking like. I mean, we have such a connection to the river here and have had as a city for so long, for all of Ridgefield's history. That's probably the area that I most enjoy.
Thank you very much. Megan?
Well, I feel very lucky to have a lot of friends with boats. So going out on the slough and launching there and then out and about there. But I mean, honestly, my first thought was bunnies when you said that. So that's what it is.
The animal or the place, just to be clear here. So
The pizzeria.
the pizza, excellent. Very well said. Excellent. Thank you very much. And why?
Because it's very delicious. And then it also doubles as little conejo too. So it's it's just
Perfect.
good Saturday morning.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
Well, I'm torn with just one.
Hey, this is your show. If you want to do more than one, so.
Well, they didn't get to do more
I
than
mean,
one.
it's your time.
Okay, well, I love Abrams and I love downtown. I love Abrams because, like when we first moved over here, I just thought it was so neat that a park exists right behind middle school, the elementary school. I love that students are able to walk there for field trips, and get to release their salmon. I think that is a really good way to incorporate your community into kids and, their learning. I have memories of my kids playing t-ball there, so it's really sentimental to me, and I think it's a great place, for just community events. It's a great place to gather. I also love downtown because it's my teenager thing to do. Like, she likes to visit downtown. I like downtown because it is a place, again, where our community gathers, like First Saturdays, when they have the Main Street Moolah. It's like you're encouraging residents to keep downtown alive despite all of the growth that's going around in the city. And so, yeah, I like them both.
We can connect them. We'll just make them one that connected. All right. So we've talked a little bit about growth and kind of the places and spaces. So we're back into a growth question just to kind of frame this for you. And I'm going to amend it just a little bit because it gets a little bit academic in asking about city codes. So I'm going to broaden this just a little bit from what was written. The order is Maggie, then Roderick, then Megan. Maggie, Roderick, Megan. So the question is, if you could change one thing in the city codes that dictate how growth happens, what would it be and why? The amendment to that I would put is, what is it about how the city, about how the dictates for how the city goes, would you like to see changed based on what you see? And without a trained eye, with your untrained eye, in how we grow, what would you like to see change and why?
Well, personally, that's a really hard one because it came up in Planning Commission last week, or earlier this month. I recognize that we have citizens in Ridgefield who want to either annex into city limits or who want to be part of the urban growth area. And so it's, I don't know, well, so it would be, what I would like to see is for everybody to get what they want. But all I know that can't happen. So I think expanding the boundaries of Ridgefield so that we are able to grow on the east side and provide, we need more housing and affordable housing. And so being able to provide high density housing in other parts of the area so that what is existing doesn't get overburdened by either traffic or traffic. Also, like the environment, right? Like all of the dirt that we're moving and all of the land that is being transitioning to housing or to commercial, that affects, our environment. So I think the code, or what I would change, is being able to expand and expand the city limits a little bit.
Thank you very much. Roderick?
Well, to my untrained eye, as I was saying when I first started talking earlier about having walkability and shared spaces and all of that, my wife and I have spent some time in Europe, and one of the cool things there is, all like the buildings that are housing above shops, right on the street, and there's a lot of access to stuff. You can go from your residence and get really everything you need within just a few minutes of walking. If you go over to, I think it was a Renko station and that whole area where they have kind of that thing set up, and it's right next to the Max, and there's lots of transportation and all of that. That's the kind of stuff that, you got to plan ahead for. And I would love to see us do that kind of stuff if I could influence, if I could, king for a day kind of thing, influence that. That's the kind of place that I would like to see us move towards, where there's easy access to transportation and easy access to all the kind of facilities that people need to get to, while also providing, as Maggie said, for, denser housing for some. Obviously, we have lots of sprawling neighborhoods around the area where that's appropriate for some, but that mixed neighborhoods, I think, is what we need here. So,
thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And third, Megan.
To my very untrained eye, I think I like the mixed use facilities as well. I think it's nice to be able to, because we are so dense with housing, right? And there are so many neighborhoods. I like that there's a 25% dedication to playgrounds and and making sure that it's not just all housing within communities, but I think continuing to do that and even expanding upon that. I think I would defer to what Maggie said earlier about trusting in what the council's doing. That would be something that I would learn more about and want to hear more about what the plans are. I think that the playgrounds and those features in there and continuing to maintain that and not losing sight of any of that is super important to making sure that we still have the Ridgefield that we had before.
Perfect. Thank you, all three of you. Our next question is going to have an order of Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie. And the question is, older people like to be close to their families and the Ridgefield they love and are familiar with. What would you do as a council member to help provide housing and increased services for seniors so they are able to live out their lives in this community?
Yeah, it's funny because my wife and I were just having a discussion the other day because her parents, who are immigrants to this country, and they're living in a house that we have over in Hillsborough that we would rent out, but they're living there now. And they're, when you're in a new country and you're older and all of that, meeting people, although it's in some ways it doesn't seem hard for them because they do a really good job of it, but they had never been to the senior center over there. And the senior center, they went the other day and there was dancing and there was food and all kinds of stuff and pretty great. And we don't have anything like that here. And for some seniors who don't have family close by and don't have a community that they're really locked into, without something like that, life can get pretty lonely. And so I would love to see something like that developed out here. But I'd love to see the same thing happen for kids. The Y may answer some of that for them. But there are probably, I don't know that there's enough spaces for teens to hang out, and then for older people to hang out and feel a part of a community of folks that are supporting them. So if we could get a senior center, it'd be the bomb.
Thank you very much. Megan?
Yeah, I think a senior center would be amazing, and I think investing in programs like, I know that at beauty schools, they'll take buses and they'll bus people to the center so that they can get their hair done certain days, or I think investing in bringing outside businesses into a center like that rather than expecting people to get out and about, especially in an older age when maybe that's not as physically possible. So I think just coming up with ways to integrate other parts of the community to invest, like in a culinary school, bringing them, I think there's so many possibilities just coming from a business owner perspective that you could collaborate with people to make those things, it could be a smaller impact here, but we could make a bigger impact bringing more people in to Ridgefield, and then that brings more people into Ridgefield. They see that, I think it could play really well together.
Great, thank you very much. Maggie?
I love the idea of a senior center. I love the idea of bringing resources and people in. One of the reasons why I started helping with Meals on Wheels, the Friendly Chats program, was because I left my grandparents in California when I moved from California to Idaho. And I recognized that they would likely be, they have their friends, but they don't have family. And so it really is a very soft spot for me, to be able to take care of our seniors in our community. They have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, and tapping into that is not just good for the people that are here, right? But that's something that we get to pass on to our children and other generations. So I like both of those ideas. I also remember when we were in California, or when I lived in California, our elementary school was very close to a senior living facility. And we would, during Christmas time, Valentine's Day, we would make cards for our classroom, would make cards for the seniors. And we would walk and we would drop off a card, everybody picked a room. And so I think integrating that, connections with we don't have a senior center yet, but if that were to ever happen, I think that'd be great. You're connecting, your youth to our senior citizens. another idea that I have been thinking of, like, how can we preserve like Richfield's historic values and the people that live here, is like, I think it would be amazing for a high school student, or really anyone, like, to reach out to our residents that have lived here for a really long time and like glean what they can from what they know of Richfield, what they remember, how things were, and have that visible for everybody else in the community. Like, once this growth continues to happen, and once we have a lot more residents in here, like, we're gonna forget, hopefully not, but we may forget like what value they brought, like what is their family history. Megan, I know you said you were here and you left and you came back, like your family has history here. So I think it'd be a really beautiful way to, again, like incorporate our youth and let them know like, hey, this is your history, be proud of it, learn from it, and put it on display so not just the current residents, but future residents can learn and appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Couple more questions, kind of growth-related question. We'll shift gears a little bit, but obviously there are quite a few questions that our residents have about the growth, and for good reason. So the next question that we have from our residents, we'll start with Megan. So it'll be Megan, then Maggie, then Roderick. That'll be the order. The question is, how do you propose to address the climate change impacts occurring in our area? And then in parentheses, they said, ask any gardener if you doubt impacts occur, given the huge amount of growth.
I would ask a gardener. I'm just kidding. I think that, I don't mean to be a broken record here, but I think I would ask people that know more than me. I would ask people that are affected and that have studied climate change, and scientists, and I would glean on what the council knows, and I would lean into the experts that know more than I do, and then help facilitate policies around that.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
I agree, asking the people that know, but also bringing them into the city, bringing them into the schools, inviting them to community events so that they are able to educate the public and let them know like easy ways or small changes that they can implement in their homes, in their community, so that we can address it at a larger issue. Or address the larger issue, but first, like, we got to be informed, right? Like, we need to know what we can do today to help prepare for tomorrow. But I agree that making sure that we know and find reliable and credible sources that are able to provide that information to our residents is important.
Thank you very much. Roderick?
Yeah, I think first of all, not being a climate denier. And being open to the fact that there's a whole body of science out there about it, and then secondly, yeah, listening, leveraging people that do know more, and how we apply it to what the city does, how the city reacts to climate change and all of that. I am not an expert on climate change, although I believe in the science, but as far as how it comes down to what a city does to prepare for climate change. But obviously, we will need to leverage those who can advise the city, can tell the city what things that we need to be looking out 5 years, 10 years in advance as the climate is changing.
Thank you very much, all three of you. All right, we have 3 more questions. We have 1 more kind of growth related. We have 3 questions total from the residents that we've already received. I'm taking this moment in time to remind you all, there's paper and pens in the back. We're going to have some time, so if there are questions that haven't been asked and you don't hear us, please do write them down and we'll get them. We're going to take just a few minute break when we're done with this group of questions so that we can collect those and actually give the 3 wonderful applicants up front like a break for a minute before we go into the next phase of this. So the next question we have, the order will be Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie. And the question is, what role or roles do you think the city can play in supporting local farming to help make our community more resilient, self-sufficient, and less reliant on supply chain issues and national issues like has been happening with eggs? So Roderick, you're up first.
Yeah, obviously zoning is going to be one, and making sure that there's still space for farms to flourish and do what they do. And I think keeping a focus on certain community events that we can do, like the farm to table, which might be a little bougie for some. If we could, to me, that's a really cool idea, but it's also a very expensive idea. But taking that and others like it, so that we can have farmers know that, have people know the farmers, I guess, that are in the community, and introduce them more to where local food is being produced that they can actually get at. I mean, a while ago, to me, it was not inconceivable, but it was expensive to go local for eggs and things like that. It is no longer expensive, right? Actually, it makes a lot of sense. And same thing for your meat, and especially with the quality of meat that are sometimes coming out of big production facilities, going local makes more sense. And so the more that we can introduce people to the farmers in their community and have that connection, I think it would be awesome. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Megan?
So it makes sense to me that we have to protect farms, I would imagine. I mean, we have to make sure that we are zoning and keeping things the way that they would be most productive. And then I agree wholeheartedly in involving community and letting people know how their food is made, where it's made, what the process is, how they can support that, how they can teach their kids how to do that, so that our children have more of an interest in that process, because I think that is certainly a lost art in a lot of ways. So I think it's just community involvement, education, and then having safeguards in place to make sure that we maintain the farms that need to stay in place in order for us to keep functioning at our highest level.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
Both good ideas. And I think I would just add making sure that we are listening to the farmers, right? Like, what do they have to say? What are their needs? What are their concerns regarding the growth and how it's impacting them specifically? Additionally, maybe is there some sort of collaboration that we can do within the schools, or when we have community events where we seek farmers out first in order to provide like the food or snacks or after school snacks or whatever's going on for field trips. Shop local first, and then if not possible, then run to Costco. So just making sure that we are mindful and aware of how policies in Ridgefield are impacting farmers directly is really important. And then to keep them sustainable is collaborating with them to make sure that we are supporting them and that they are giving back to our community as well.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next question. The order will be Maggie, then Roderick, then Megan. So Maggie, then Roderick, then Megan. This question is, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? And Maggie, you're first.
One-time deal.
One-time deal.
One-time deal. Okay.
1 million, one time.
Well, depending on what the parameters are, no, I think investing in a place or a space for our teenagers or youth is really important. While I recognize that we are in the works with the community YMCA, not the YMCA, is happening. Yeah, our youth need a place to go. Like, they need a place to hang out that's safe, that's large enough to hold them, that is not just school. So I think I would invest that money there, collaborating with other local agencies that could help either develop programs or I don't know how much $1 million buys right now, but if it is enough for land and a building, then yeah, let's do that. Something where our youth can have a place to hang out and appreciate Ridgefield like most of the adults here do.
Thank you very much. Roderick.
Yeah, not trying to avoid the question, but I'd be less than genuine if I didn't say that. First thing I'd want to do is really listen to what people want. Like, I might have my own ideas, but there's a lot of needs out in the community, and then really listening first, and then seeing where should we apply, what's important to the community, and asking that question first. That said, I've already covered a couple things that I thought would be great for Ridgefield, like the senior center, or extra transportation, or other things that we could do. But I would want to make sure that it's not my idea, but it's the city's idea. It's the community's idea about what's important to us.
Thank you very much. Megan?
It seems like to me the biggest issue that we've had in growth and passing things has been the school district. So I would put I would put that investment into furthering buildings, teacher education, like whatever we needed to do as far as the school district goes, because that seems to be a sticking point for a lot of the things to get passed for us to move forward. So if we could just throw a mill at that, I think that would probably be needed.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The million is spent. It's gone. Good work. All right. One final question that we have, that we received from the residents already, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll get the questions that we have that are coming from the audience that is in attendance. The last question order will be Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie. And the question is, how do you plan to engage with and involve residents in the decision-making process in our town?
Oh, I've been on the whole time. What I would love to see, and I'm as guilty as as anybody else, is more people being involved in forums like this. A lot of times you'll see people flood into a space when there's a particularly thorny issue going on or whatever. But how do we encourage more people to be a part of their community, to be a part of decisions that get made by the community and all that? And I think the way that is partly done is just through the things that I was talking about earlier with what Matt Cole had done, which is putting out videos, putting out word to the community about what's happening, and making you feel like, oh, this person's actually talking to me. And now I have more of a sense of what is happening and what's going on. It's a difficult thing to do when people have really, really busy lives and so much going on that they're not focused on what's happening here in this space, because the city seems to take care of itself. But that's not really what happens. And so the more that I think we can remind people that, no, actually it's you, it's me, that we all do this together. We're part of a community together. Anything that I could do to help promote that, I think, is what needs to happen.
All right. Thank you very much. Megan?
I think the only way is to actually get involved. I mean, I think as a business owner, the number one event space or impact that I make is word of mouth. And it's talking face-to-face with people. It's letting them recognize who you are. It's letting them have a person to associate things with. So talking to business owners, throwing community events, figuring out collaborative efforts that you can help tie businesses together. I think it's just helping people figure out how to work together. I think it's just being involved in the community, going to ribbon cuttings, going to places and talking to people face to face. I don't think anything beats talking to people face to face in a world of social media and all the videos that we can post and all the access of information we can give. To have a regular person be able to talk to someone that they know is in power and know can make an impact for them, I don't think that there's anything that is a greater impact that starts to just ripple out to everybody else. It starts to feel accessible. It starts to feel like something that you have access to, and it doesn't feel so them and us. It feels like community driven. And so I think the only way to get the community involved is to be community involved.
All right. Thank you very much. Maggie?
Well, I like what the City of Ridgefield is doing currently by inviting residents to engage in surveys, like getting their input on things that are going on. I think that's an easy way for residents to feel involved and to provide their input, from the comfort of their home. And so that's one way. I would encourage that the city continues to do that. I also would put myself in places where people already exist, right? So going to them. I think it's important to recognize that people feel comfortable in the spaces that they're in and when they're surrounded by the people that they know, the community events or the baseball team, right? And so making sure that you are building organic and genuine conversations in places where residents already feel safe is really important. Meeting them where they're at. So yes, maybe attending a Lions Club meeting and learning about what they're doing and how it's going to impact the residents. Reaching out to the Family Resource Center, learning about what the needs are in our community, what are our families facing, and really being present. Have an open ear, have an open mind, and understand that everybody is going through something, and it's important to be able to help them have their needs and concerns heard.
Great. Thank you, all three of you. You have run the gauntlet of the questions we have up to this point. We're going to take a few minutes. We're going to take just a few minute break. Please, I'm going to set timer for 4 minutes. We're going to go around. We're going to get some questions from you guys, and then we'll come back together. We'll ask a few more questions, and we will proceed with kind of the last phase of this. Thank you for your work so far, and we are on a break for 4 minutes. All right, everybody, love the engagement. We're going to get started again. If everybody could please get back to your seats. The intermission is just about over. It's on. It's just not very loud. Yeah, they're just loud. Yeah. Usually I'm the loud one.
Oh, we kind of fixed it. I know, but the end was.
I know, there you go. They heard that though. All right, thank you, everybody. Is there anyone else that had a question that they wrote down that we do not have? Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for getting back together again. Thank you for those of you who wrote additional questions.
I think if I could be involved with the Main Street project in some capacity, I really love what they're doing in preserving our historic downtown. I would love to be involved with business owners. I don't know if that's a function of this as well, just like as a part of that, really figuring out how to, see what they're successful at, what they need more support in, just really focusing on business since that's such a strength for me. I would love to be involved in schools too. I think I have a lot of, I know my daughter's 13, there's a lot of her friends in that age group, and then I have friends with so many varying ages of kids and so many friends that are teachers that it feels like kind of the right fit for me. So if I could pick schools and businesses, that would be my choice.
As I mentioned, being involved in the zoning and the planning of, different multi-use spaces and things like that, and the walkability piece, I'm going to keep harping on that. But also, I think it would be really cool, and I've thought this for years, and I do see like the inklings of this happening, to allow our kids who are in neighborhoods outside of the downtown area a better, safer way to get downtown. Because to get like through the corridor there, coming down Pioneer, super dangerous, but you see kids on bikes and stuff doing that. I know we've slowly been, as developments go in, we've been developing these trails that are connecting from like the high school all the way around past Rosars and back, but having the ability to have some of that, those trails connect and have kids have safer ways of getting around, I think would be really, really cool. To be a part of that. And then I would love to see a Volks March happen around the whole city, but yeah.
All right, Maggie.
I would probably try to involve myself more with like the parks and recreation, only because I'm not very familiar with not just like what our parks are, but just really all that it entails, right? And so I think it's important to be able to learn from other departments within Ridgefield. So definitely the parks, learning how we could support. I know that the city has acquired a lot of parks and trails, and so understanding like what their needs are and how we can make sure that their work is sustainable would be one area. Another would probably be trying to learn more from like the Cowlitz tribe. I am not familiar with, or I don't know anyone personally, and so again, putting myself in spaces that are going to challenge me to learn and grow and understand how we are all interconnected is really important. So probably put myself in those two places.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The next question from the audience, the order will be Maggie, then Roderick, then Megan. And the question is, what is something you would do to help the youth get involved in the community?
Well, I already got my $1 million and I built my center, so I don't know what else I could do. No, I actually on my application that I submitted for this, when we lived in Idaho, there was a Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. And I think that is an excellent way to have students learn what the city looks like, understand how it works, get them involved, and they may or may not like pursue that path, and that's fine, right? It's just the exposure part of it. I also understand that there is an opening for youth to serve on the Parks Board. So that again would be a good way to facilitate. Hey, these are the opportunities that don't exist only in Ridgefield, and you can take what you learn anywhere you go. It's a great way to get them to learn how to collaborate, learn how to work together, especially if their different opinions don't align. So I think I would say see if we can formulate a youth advisory council, get some of those high school students involved, and let them experience this and get them involved in not just the policy behind it, but more in their community. Have them create events, that's how I would do it.
Great. Thank you, Roderick.
Yeah. So years ago, my middle daughter is a bit of an artist, and they did a project downtown on one of the buildings doing some painting and all of that, which was great. And I think that where we can, partnering with the schools and partnering with kids who want to be involved in projects like that and like other things that the city are doing, where we can reach out to them and say, what portion of this project, what portion of this thing that the city is doing can we have the kids be a part of? Because that's going to be the next city councilors in the city. Because they're involved in something, even if it's small as doing an art project or helping out in some small way in a volunteer project or things like that, where they can be a part of the city and see that the things that they're doing now have an effect. But also it provides some space for them to be a part of our growth. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Megan.
So I think it's as simple as getting involved with teachers and students. I think you have to start at the core of what the issue is and the people that are involved. So we talk to teachers to identify students that would potentially be interested or people that need a little bit more attention. We talk to students about what they're actually interested in, and then we can create groups based on those, and then potentially incentive programs to reward them for hitting X mark within this community, just to sort of continue the momentum going. I think a lot of times we think in these really broad, beautiful committee terms, and it's as simple as talking to kids and teachers and making sure that they feel heard, and then we integrate programs that are actually going to be impactful based on the information that we've been given from them.
Okay. Thank you very much, all three of you, for this next question. And we have 3 questions left. So for the next question, the order will be Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie. The question is, what would you do to address the need for at least one or more animal control officers in the city of Ridgefield?
Good question. I don't know enough about what we have currently for animal control officers, other than to say, as all of those things, you're going to need to invest. I mean, as we grow police-wise, we need more police, right? Or fire, or teachers as schools get bigger. And I would imagine that it'll be no less true for animal control here in the city. So I think we just have to look at comparable cities and figure out what we need, and then act accordingly and fund it accordingly.
Great, thank you. Megan?
That answer seems correct to me also. I think that, I mean, it seems like most issues are an issue of funding, right? So I think looking at the metrics, comparing to other cities, and then seeing if we have any funding to allocate for that, then we would put towards that. I don't know what kind of animal issues we face, but I don't know if veterinarians are helpful. I'm just trying to think of like who you would speak to in that field to then gain more information is kind of where I start at any baseline of a problem. So.
All right, thank you very much. Maggie?
Yeah, I think probably like look at the data. I don't know what is the city saying that they need, or where are we falling short? Is it too many calls or requests coming in? Is it not responding to calls on time? So I think trying to understand what, I mean, this is a question, so I'm sure there's more and I can't ask follow-up questions, but I think just trying to understand where we're at currently and then being able to project from there. Is it something that like we are able to, I don't know, grants, funding, like I like, so I guess it's hard to understand if we don't know where we're at, like what's the baseline? And then from there, plan accordingly, seek out public input, seek out concerns from other citizens, maybe the ones that are calling in and reporting. I don't know. So I think a lot of it involves just, again, community involvement, asking the questions, and looking at the data.
Great. Thank you, all three of you. We have two more questions. This question, the order is Megan, Maggie, then Roderick. And the question is, in one sentence, or thereabouts, what do you believe is the role of City Council?
I believe the role of City Council is to represent its citizens and move the city forward in the most productive, beautiful fashion that you can.
Right. Maggie? Microphone, please. Sorry.
Oh, it is certainly adopting the budget and setting policies, but it is also advocating for the residents of Ridgefield, not just locally, but in other counties, and also to our state legislators.
Thank you. Roderick?
Being good stewards of the resources that the city has and applying them as best we can to the betterment of our population.
Thank you very much, all three of you. And our last question from our audience is that being a city council member is very time consuming. Will you have the time to participate in those issues? And forgive me, the order is Roderick, then Megan, then Maggie.
It's funny, resident Michael here just asked me the same question. And a few years ago, I had thought about this, about running for a position, and I didn't do it. And part of the reason I didn't is, and there was a couple, but I still had kids that were younger and all of that, and I don't anymore. At one point, I thought years ago that I would do this, and I was in the reserves at the time, and I was also holding down a full-time job, and I had kids, and I was a single dad at that time of my life, and it wasn't feasible. Now I'm more established in my career. My kids are grown. I'm not in the reserves anymore. I have some time now, and while I've been able to do some other things to serve my community, this is one thing that I'd wanted to do for a long time that now I actually have the time to do, and so yeah.
Thank you very much. Megan?
Yes, I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule. As a business owner for 10 years now, one of my goals and one of the things that I've made it a point is to build up a team that can run the show when I'm not there. So I don't have to be the one that's there. That's been my job as a leader, to make sure that it happens when I'm not there. So I have actually a ton of flexibility. I have a very supportive partner. I have a great co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband. I have all the support in the world, and could be doing a lot.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
Well, we all have 24 hours in the day, and it's how we use that time. And so, yes, I consulted with my family before applying. I made sure that we all knew. I asked questions of residents that had previously served and say, hey, what's the time commitment? So I do recognize what I am getting into. And again, it's a give and take, right? Like I understand that I'm volunteering in different capacities, but oftentimes, we make these decisions every day, right? Like, what is important to me now? And so that's my answer. This is important to me now.
Great. Thank all three of you for your answers to those questions, your thoughtful answers to all of the questions that were raised by residents either prior to this evening or this evening. We now have an opportunity for you to take a couple of minutes to as a closing. And the order of that will be the reverse of how we started. So it will be Megan, then Roderick, then Maggie. So Megan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for being here tonight and for listening to me and working through all this together. I find it to be such an honor to be even selected to be up here. This was something that I saw and I felt really drawn to and I felt really excited about. And if I get that opportunity, I promise to take it really seriously. My parents taught me a lesson a long time ago. I'm not going to look at my mom. And my dad, you leave it better than you found it. And that applied to babysitting, that applied to going to a friend's house for a sleepover, if you borrowed someone's car, whatever it was, you leave it better than you found it. And my goal with all of this would be to come in here and take something that's already great and leave it even better than I found it. So if I'm given that opportunity, I would greatly appreciate it. I know that I'm not necessarily the one that looks the best on paper, but I promise you my passion, my hard work, my ability to listen, learn, and want to be here is really, really, really big. So thank you for your time, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Megan. Roderick?
I feel the same way. I feel really lucky to be here and talking to the community and especially listening to you guys, because you guys had some great answers. And I appreciate that passion too. And I think, one of the things that keeps coming to my mind is we were answering questions, and of course you answer a question, then you think about the 5 other things you could have said afterwards. There's this sort of principle about asking the 5 whys. And in my work, I use it all the time, where why did something happen, or what's going on here? And then you ask why, and then you ask why again, and you ask why again, because it drives you further and further into the heart of the issue that you're addressing, whatever that is. And I think that is going to keep applying in everything I do, and certainly it would in this position if I was city councilor, is just trying to understand the root of what happens all the time, as deeply as I can before I make a decision on something, because we all think we know things a lot of times, and we take knee-jerk reactions to things, and we make decisions on stuff. I'm a city councilor, I'm empowered to make a decision, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I need to make a decision immediately. I want to make sure that I have all the information that I can get about what's really happening and dig a little deeper every time. And so if I get selected as a city councilor, that's one of the things that I commit is just asking lots of questions, being as well informed as I can, and making sure, as I said earlier, that I'm asking lots of questions of the community, listening a lot to the community, to what you guys want. So really glad to be here. And I think we'd be lucky if any of you two or myself got selected. So thank you very much for being here as well.
Thank you very much. Maggie?
First, I just want to say thank you to city staff for all of this that you have to put together. Everybody that's here tonight, like I'm sure you would probably rather be at home having dinner. And to those that are listening online, and those that are going to listen to the recording after. Those that submitted questions, thank you. Your involvement is really important, and that's what makes this process a process that is for the residents. I, again, like, understand what the role of a city council member is. However, I really think it's also about advocating to our, advocating for the needs of our community, making sure that the best interest of all of the residents are being heard, are being represented. And one of the reasons why I am here, it's like that 15-year-old right there. Like, I want to make sure that the decisions that I make impact her and impact my other children and impact other children that are not my own in the best way possible. Being able to advocate for a community that is here supporting me because we've built this relationship and built on trust and supporting each other and showing up for each other. Like, I think the folks here in the back that are here because I said, hey, I would really love your support and I would really appreciate it if you were here for me. And so I truly, truly would be honored to fulfill this role. And again, like, it is tough putting yourself out there. And it is not easy, but it is something that I think all three of us here are doing. It's like we have the best intentions, we have good hearts, and we really do want to help continue working with existing council and make sure that all of our goals align to best serve all of the residents here. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Maggie. For all three of our applicants, you've all expressed grace and gratefulness for this process, but we are truly grateful for you and what you have put yourself out for and the people that you are representing and who you seek to serve. It isn't easy to step up and to stand in front of your friends and neighbors and residents and offer to serve and to put yourself out there for that. And we are very grateful that you are going through that process tonight and that you'll do it moving forward. So again, could we please give all three of our amazing applicants a round of applause. Truly a great conversation and very much appreciate it. Also would like to thank the audience who is attending in person and those who are attending online. A great showing of our community, and thank you for that. Truly, there are other things people could be doing this evening, but this is what you're doing, and it benefits the community, and it benefits all of us, so thank you for that. Thank you for those who have submitted questions, either online ahead of time or in the audience or online this evening. They have made this conversation much better. The City Council is also listening. Some of them are online likely this evening, listening in. Others will watch this later on. They're not here tonight, honestly, because this is your time. This is your part of the process. This is the citizen, the residents of Ridgefield opportunity to engage directly and have it be about all of you. And next week will be about them. And that's the next step in this process. The next step in the process is prior to the regular meeting of the City Council next Thursday. So at 5 p.m. next Thursday, the City Council will get an opportunity to interview these three wonderful finalists and ask them questions that they are interested in hearing. They'll also know a lot of the questions that have already been answered so that we get more of a flavor of the type of public servants that you have before you. So that will happen at 5 p.m. next Thursday. At 6:30, they will convene a regular meeting, and they will deliberate on that. They'll deliberate on the individual qualifications and the relative merits of who to appoint to the open seat on the City Council. That appointment will occur next Thursday, unless they deadlock, but it will occur unless they deadlock. And when I say deadlock, if it's tied 3-3, but that will happen at 6:30 after they deliberate, and then whoever is selected will be sitting at the dais as a selected City Council person. So this all happens relatively quickly now, but it has been an incredibly grueling, deliberative process that these three applicants and three others have gone through to this point. So thank you to all of you for your participation in this. The only thing other than that I wanted to make note of is for anybody who has not had the opportunity, if you had friends, you had neighbors that weren't able to see this, we will have this We will have this program on our website for people to be able to see and hear. So please do let people know to take advantage of that. And if there are additional questions that you have for these applicants or that you want to make sure that the city council asks, you can get a hold of them via phone. You can call City Hall. You can email them directly just at city.council@ridgefieldwa.us. And there are multiple ways to get to the city council if there are additional questions that you want answered. So again, thank you all for participating this evening. Thank you to our applicants. Thank you for everybody's participated. And we are at 7:30 and we are adjourned. Thank you so much all. Good night.